And hello. It's me. It's that D-O-double-G. And we are here and we are young. We run free. We keep our teeth nice and clean. We see our friends. We see the sights and we feel all right. Are you feeling all right, Charlotte?
I'm really, really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. And are we like you? I can't be sure of the scene as she turns. Keira's strange in this world, but how are you, young Keira? Thank you for being here with us.
I am great. How are you?
I'm just full of beans, full of life. And for those of you watching today, we are trying our first ever full HD stream. So if there are any quality issues, please do let us know in the chat. Worst case scenario, we can drop out and come back. We're not going anywhere. So please do let us know. But this is allegedly what we all look like in high definition. So I hope this is spoiled.
I'm sitting back. I've got spots.
But yes, it is me and it is Charlotte and it is the female pit bull, Mrs. Worldwide. I'm not sure if any of you have checked out, but our Women's World Cup episode is just viral. It is viral. It was our best performing podcast ever. Better than the head of player development of Wolverhampton Wanderers, better than a Disney TV star. It's everywhere. People are watching it in Sydney, they're watching it in Sweden, they're watching it in the Netherlands, they're in Australia, in America, Germany, Holland, just everywhere. Keira, how does it feel to be that famous?
I mean, who knew they needed a 17-year-old Wiganer to just go? No one knew. Here we are.
Yeah, and in fairness, I think it's really great that obviously the most popular pod is our first dedicated women's football pod as well. Dedicated solely women's football. I mean, as somebody that doesn't just do this pod, Keira also does other podcasts where she speaks solely about Women's Super League as well. I mean, sure, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel?
I'm so happy about it. Like, honestly, like I might cry. I'm so happy. But I just... obviously happy for you lot as well that it's done so well. Like, I'm so glad, especially because it's my first podcast as well, covering the World Cup or like a major event, because I never got to do anything for the Euros last year. So yeah, I'm just so happy it's done so well.
That's it. I mean, thank you so much for being with us, Keira, and for doing that. It's very, very kind of you. But we are here. We're here to discuss. There's more football transfers. It's going to go on. I've got a feeling all summer long. And I mean, before I go into any lists, from what's happened over the weekend, does anybody have a favourite transfer that you've enjoyed the most, or favourite bit of news? I haven't asked the girls to prep anything for this. I'm just throwing it out there. Is it anything that has grabbed your eyes and ears this weekend?
It was finally nice to see Declan Rice be announced as an Arsenal player, because I feel like it's been going on and on and on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was nice to actually see the promo and see him in an Arsenal shirt. So I think that was one of them. But I think that's a great signing from Manchester United. I think it'll be very weird as well, because we're all used to David De Gea in goal.
Onana. I heard you say Rice. I saw Sam's comments. I'm bringing Sam in, who's not here, to say well done to Keira. And then I heard you say Man United. I thought, whoa.
Yeah, we're just in sync.
And I mean, no. What's your name? Chris is happy with that as well. Keira, as somebody who doesn't follow United, obviously, what do you think? I mean, we spoke about it last week.
I think it's a good signing, but I think he's obviously still not near the level of what De Gea was at, and I still think De Gea would be a much better keeper for them. I'm so sorry to everyone that supports United. But, no, I think he's good. I'm not like slagging him off, but I mean, time will tell. Put it that way.
So Keira doesn't think Onana's very good and that he's going to have a bad season this year. So just paraphrasing, I'll just paraphrase what she said there. And yeah, the Declan Rice transfer is complete. I think I put in our chat, I've got a feeling he must have been signing his name on the contract one letter a day.
Yeah.
Before he actually got there, because that was a long time. That was a long time. But I mean, some of the transfer news, I'm not sure if you've seen what has been done today. Lionel Messi, he is now officially an MLS player in Inter Miami, and I think it was at the 10,000 fans came out to see Lionel Messi take on. And do you know what? I've just realised it's 10,000 fans, and what shirt number has Messi got?
10.
Number 10. How strange is that? And it's not just Messi. I don't know if you've noticed as well over the weekend. Sergio Busquets.
Yeah.
Also signed for into Miami. I mean, is that going to make a difference? We are going to talk about these about what the foreign leagues and the growth of foreign leagues in a little bit. But I mean, Keira, do you think that's going to make a massive difference for the American League?
I think so, yeah. I think it's going to attract a lot more attention to the American League, especially with obviously having Messi there. But I seen on Twitter today that their goalkeeper, Inter Miami's goalkeeper, come out and said that the club's not ready for Messi. And when you look at what he said, he's not lying. They've got a temporary ground with no security, no like barrier, nothing. And you've got probably the most famous footballer in the world playing there.
Like, that's going to be fun.
Have you thought about it?
It is, and I think it's only like their second season in the top flight. And we've got, I mean, this look at all this lovely chat. We've got Chris in there saying Messi was revealed when he thinks it was 20,000 attended. And Crab dribbled in the chat. Thank you, Crab, for joining us. I think you respect Tom Cruise. No, I think me and Lucas had a chat separately about the Mission Impossible movies and explain why I just can't watch them because I think Tom Cruise is just a lunatic. But and Sam as well. The best hello from Lionel since Lionel Richie sculpted that grey head in his hello video. And Lucas, Messi been in Miami for like a week, and he's already got a burger named after him, the Messi Burger. I think they've got lots of those everywhere, though. There's lots of Messi burgers. Yeah, it's. I mean, Shah, do you think there was anywhere else he could have really gone? Because he was offered Saudi as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was obviously offered Saudi. There was rumours about him going back to Barcelona to end his career there, but that was never going to happen. As much as everyone started the rumours, and there were a lot of stuff going on Twitter. I think he came out and basically said he wouldn't go there because it's the same situation that he left. But yeah, I think it was always made for him to either go there or Saudi to finish the career off. David Beckham obviously did similar as well and went to America, didn't he, towards the end of his career? And I think, has Zlatan done it as well previously?
Zlatan was at LA Galaxy.
Did he go to LA Galaxy? Yeah. So
although he did come back
he did.
Into Milan, and I think now he has retired. I think now he's officially hung his boots up. But I mean, another signing that has happened. I think it's today. Apparently, it is the 17th today. So one for you, Keira. Asmir Begovic has left Everton to go to QPR. Have you got any players left? I've seen lots going out. I haven't seen anything coming in yet.
Got one that's coming. But no, basically pre-season was all the under-21 squad with a couple of older players. But Asmir's gone to QPR. I think it's a good signing for them, really, because obviously he didn't get much game time for us, only really played in the FA Cup and things like that. So at least he's probably going to get more game time there. But he is coming towards the end of his career.
He is. I mean, there's genuinely, I've not seen anybody coming into Everton. I've just gone on to Sky Sports transfer centre, Everton deals, and it says no transfers in the current window.
We signed Ashley Young from Aston Villa.
Yes. Yeah, you did.
And here's one for Lucas. Ask Keira, when you're getting that 40 million bid for Rob Holding?
God knows.
Is that a player that you need, or is it a player that Arsenal need rid of?
It's a player Arsenal need rid of. I mean, I think the only good thing he's ever done for his career was like the resurrection of his airline, but I'm glad. Yeah,
I'm glad
Arsenal can keep him.
I was going to say, take some pointers here, Josh.
I know. I'm treading really carefully on these here conversations. I'm afraid at some point, I did say. I mean, for anyone watching, that is karma. That is. I said originally. I mean, I did message Lucas originally. He said, "Do you want to do the pod with Keira and I?" And he wasn't available. I thought I'm just going to get bullied by Charlotte and Keira all evening because That's
Standard.
just what the pair of them do. I know that's what's happening. Chris is in the chat. I'm assuming it's Demarai Gray. He thinks he's going to be going next.
Yeah, seen a couple of rumours, obviously, from the Saudi leagues as well. But Crystal Palace have upped their interest in him today. Demarai Gray, good player, but just not one I'm that fond of. So I don't think I'd be too bothered if he did go, to be honest.
I mean, you'll know better than me. What is happening at Everton at the moment? Are they just not spending anything, or?
I don't know. Obviously, we got rid of most of the board members apart from Bill Kenwright a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, he was just staying on so we could supervise, who was coming in, but that's probably a lie. I don't know. Ashley Young coming on. Did he come in on a free? I think he come in on a free. So I don't think
you would have hoped so. If anyone spent money on Ashley Young, I'd be fuming.
Yeah, he's only signed here. He's a signed year contract. Do you know what? I think he'll be good for us. I think he really will be good for us because obviously, as I said, we've got quite a lot of young players and he's going to push up the standards, I think, in training and in the professionalism within the younger players.
Yeah.
I think definitely he is going to be a role model for them. So, do you know what? We need fullbacks. We've really struggled in them positions, especially last season with injuries and things. And then I know we have Ruben Vinagre on loan, but he's gone back. So he never played it either. But we should have really kept hold of him. So
yeah, it's unnerving. I mean, and Lucas is saying in the chat, saying Everton need to get some quality because he doesn't think 2 years of just surviving is good enough.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I agree. You need to get DCL back as well in a new body. You need to get him a new body.
Yeah.
And he'll be fine.
Yeah.
And he's also saying you can have Nketiah and El Neni. To be fair, yeah.
I'd take anything at the moment, though, to be fair.
Yeah. What about Morpay? Is he going to get going this season?
I hope so. He best be.
As in, I think he means get going as in playing well, not leaving the club.
No. He took a penalty off an 18-year-old kid the other day. What? Is that just to try to get his tally up for the club? Do you know what I mean? He's scored 1 goal and now he's got 2 because he robbed a penalty off a kid. He just needs to go.
Morpay's biggest fan in Keira.
I am. I'm going to get a I Heart Morpay t-shirt.
and Sam saying in the chat that Coleman and Young have a combined age at right back of 125, which probably isn't fair. Isn't far off. Isn't far off at all. Here's another one for you as well. Liam Morpay is actually trash. Like, genuinely, he's not even normal trash. He's the big bins at the recycling centre.
No, he's the kind of rubbish you put in the tip that gets burned. Do you know what I mean? He's just useless.
Lets off that bad smell.
Yeah.
And then people complain to the council about it.
And then you're like, well, we can't get rid of it. Sorry. It's just there.
Yeah, we can't take that. You'll have to take that somewhere else. What? But, oh, bless your heart. Yeah, I mean, it's unnerving times, I would say.
Yeah.
If you were an Everton fan. Some other transfers. I mean, I'm not sure if anybody's seen this, but Aaron Ramsey, he had a choice. Was he going to go to Cardiff? He's going to go to Saudi. Logically, you would go to Saudi Arabia if you're Aaron Ramsey. You've got no legs. Your game's sort of gone, and not many other people. No, he's gone to Cardiff. He's gone from Nice to Cardiff for reasons. I don't quite get that. I don't quite get that one at all. Here's another one for you, Keira. Everyone loving the Everton chat at the moment. Will Everton sell Sims? Because there's plenty of rumours around him.
He's gone.
He's gone.
He went a couple of weeks ago. He's gone to Coventry.
It's genuine. Have you got any players? Is it just Pickford, Coleman, Ashley Young, and your physio with Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the physio's room?
Pretty much.
It's frightening there. It's frightening.
Even Tom Davies going to want to stay. Come on, it must be bad.
I just don't know what to say. I'm genuinely. I haven't. Obviously, I don't think about Everton a lot. It's not a team that sort of sits deep in my psyche.
Whatever. Sit there thinking of them. listening to love songs.
I'm just glad every year they don't get relegated because I think 6 points. There we go. Thank God for that.
But did you get 6 points last season? Or was it just 4? Was it 4? Was it 4?
We got
Shots
enough.
fired. I'm looking at me. I don't have to say anything. Keira's doing it all for me. I'm just having a nice break.
Yeah, Charlotte did say it was going to be just a part of you two just bullying and harassing me. That's what it is. But I generally, because I hadn't thought about it, I didn't realise actually there has been a lot of Everton outgoings and just so little incomings. I mean, you've still got Daishi still there, isn't he? He isn't gone as well.
No, Daishi's still there, thank God.
And are there any youth prospects you think at Everton at the moment that are going to make a difference?
I think so. There's Lewis Warrington, Tom Cannon. He was on loan at Preston North End last season. Did really, really well for them. Who else have we got? We've got Reece Welch as well. He's come into the senior side quite a bit. I can't pronounce his name, and I'm not going to try and get it right. But he scored a goal for us in pre-season the other day. Might be Katia Kiate, but that could be really wrong. So I'm so sorry if it is. But,
that is fabulous pronunciation.
Thanks.
I don't know if it's wrong. I want it to be right.
I do too. But he scored a goal the other day. His goal was so good, and his celebration was even better. He did a backflip. But I think he'd be really, really good as well. So I think we have got some prospects, and I think we're just going to have to bring more of the under-21s into the side.
Yeah, you're going to, because I mean, I know Everton have been teetering on the brink of the Premier League financial fair play regulations, and it's not. It was such a it has been such a bloated squad, isn't it? I mean, you've had about 85 attacking central midfielders in the squad last season. So it's frightening. I feel. I don't want to say feel bad for you because that would be a lie. I feel for you. I feel something for the situation there. But I mean, over on the other side of Liverpool at the moment, I'm not sure if you've seen today, our right back that we signed in, I think Connor Ramsey, I always get his name wrong. Calvin Ramsey, Connor Ramsey, the young lad we signed from Aberdeen, has gone out on loan again. So yet again this season, there's no backup for Trent, which is very unnerving. I mean, that sort of means we're going to be leaning on Gomez potentially, one of our youth prospects, based on a season last year. If you were like in Liverpool, would you be happy with that?
Not really, no. But then again, with Klopp, he could bring someone in potentially. Do you reckon?
There's a young lad whose name just escapes me. Who's I'm gonna see if I can find out while I'm talking now. There is a young player that we do have that could sort of come in and do it, but it's a tricky one because it's sort of you don't know what he's doing with Trent.
Yeah.
As a in his position, is he going to keep playing right back, or is he going to move him into that more advanced position that they have done? Connor Bradley, that's the young player's name. Connor Bradley. Oh, we do have Joe Gomez that can do it, but he's a centre back. I feel sorry for Joe Gomez. He's just been abused everywhere. And Chris in the chat believes that he's going to be moved forward the forwards. We will need a new one.
Yeah.
But as it stands, Levy Colwell, he has gone with Chelsea on their pre-season tour. Now, I've not seen any Chelsea fan ever mention Levy Colwell until Liverpool have rumored with him. Am I right, or has anybody seen that previously?
No.
No.
He has already become this best player. He's one of those players that become really good for not playing. I mean, did either of you catch him in the under-21s tournament?
I think I saw a bit of him. I watched a bit because we had 2 players obviously playing in that squad. But I think overall that squad played really, really well as it was. But I don't really remember him. I'll be honest.
They did. They did quite well. But yeah, again, so he is out there with Chelsea. So the likelihood of him coming to Liverpool, who knows? I mean, Chris is saying he watched him. Of course, Chris just sees everything. If ever I'm short for an answer, that's just where I put it. He said he looks decent, and Sam says he wears great jeans as Levi. But I mean, just before we get into, I mean, I want to touch on like all the big transfers that happen at the moment, which is in the Saudi Arabia, but a couple of other ones beforehand. So Willian, who was at Fulham last season, he actually went and did a medical at Nottingham Forest. He is back at Fulham again, having a medical apparently this evening. I mean, Char, you were a bit of a Fulham fan last season. Do they need him? Do they need him for that other season? Do you think he's an integral part of the squad?
I think they do need him. Obviously, there's rumours of Mitrovic leaving as well. There is a rumour as well. I think is it Paulinho? I think he's linked with West Ham to replace Declan Rice. And I think that'd be a great signing for West Ham because I really do think he's underrated. I do feel for Fulham because I think some of their names after them having a good season last season are obviously being targeted by other clubs. But at the same time, if Mitrovic goes to Saudi Arabia, which it is looking like, they will probably get quite a good amount for him, won't they? And I think West Ham aren't being shy as well with the Paulinho bid.
Yeah, so, I mean, I did see sort of 40 million. I'm sure I saw banded somewhere. And here we are. Sam in the chat telling us West Ham 45 million rejected. So he'd be a good sign. But I mean, Fulham, they need to try and strengthen themselves. But West 100%. Ham again, they've got that position that they've got to pull up. I mean, Newcastle. What was the transfer? So Newcastle, they're still after Harvey Barnes, but I don't know if Lucas is still in the chat. But I saw this transfer rumor today. So Newcastle have made an approach to Napoli for Special K, the guy whose name we cannot say, Karakadavishvili or whatever his name is. Special, the star player in Serie A last season, banging goals in for days, loads of assists, fabulous play. Rumored to Newcastle, which would be a big name signing for them. I mean, Shah, we spoke on others pods about them maybe doing it solely in building. That's a bit of a leap, do you think?
That's a massive leap. And especially as well, they've got Champions League. So I think that'd be a brilliant signing for them as well. Obviously, last season, they did really well. And then obviously they dropped off and they had a bit of a moment when they did well again. So I think that is kind of a statement saying, this is Newcastle now. We are here and we're here to stay.
It would be a big one. I would like that.
It's a great signing. Great signing if it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, because I saw St. Maximum. Has he gone? Does anyone know? I know he's been linked.
I think they want him gone. He's not gone, has he?
I don't think so. I mean, Chris is saying they'll have to sell him to fund. Do you know what? But FFP, they're still within FFP. I think they will finish the season last season something like 70 million within FFP rules, roughly. So I think they could afford to buy him and not really worry themselves too much at the moment. I mean, Sam agrees is a big step to Newcastle and danger, high voltage. Hopefully you know that song and I just look like a buffoon. And Heather is in the chat, and Heather does nicely lead us on to what I was going to speak about next. Harry Maguire put a tweet out. I think it was today. Did today he put his tweet out? Basically because he has been removed, officially removed as Man United captain. He put his tweet out thanking the fans, thanking his fellow players and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, Keira, first of all, I mean, what are your thoughts? How did that one make you feel?
I don't know. You got to feel a bit sorry for him, because obviously with him going from Leicester to Man United, it was obviously such a big move as it was anyway. And then been getting the captaincy, and then he's just dropped off, hasn't he? I mean, he wasn't amazing, but he's just dropped off. And how someone that barely ever plays still gets called up for England just baffles me as well. But I mean, I think it's right they've took the captaincy off him because it's not fair having him barely ever play and then him still being captain, if you know what I mean. It should really be given to someone else.
I mean, Charlotte, what are your thoughts on the situation?
Do you know what, right? I think Erik ten Hag, since arriving, has made some really big statements, like obviously the Ronaldo thing. taking the captaincy off Harry Maguire. Obviously, that with Rashford when he turned up late for training and straight away, it was like no favouritism, disciplined. I think the thing with Harry Maguire is there was a hell of a lot of pressure on him straight away being given the captaincy. The price tag didn't help. But one thing I can say about him is as much grief that he gets from a lot of people, I'm not just talking Manchester United fans, I'm talking football fans in general, the amount of grief that guy gets, and for him to still put a statement out like that, never complain on social media, never like badmouth anyone. I honestly think a lot about Harry Maguire, like as a person, and the amount of stuff he gets and the amount of stuff he must be going through. I honestly think a lot of Harry Maguire in that respect. Don't get me wrong. As a football player, I don't particularly rate him at the minute, but I think a lot of that is down to pressure as well. But I think this could actually make Harry Maguire taking the captaincy off him. And I don't know if it will be for Manchester United, if it will be for another team. But I think he does need a fresh start, whether it be just not definitely as captain and just as a player at Manchester United, or whether it be, I know he's been linked with West Ham. I think he's been linked with other clubs as well. But one thing I can say about Harry Maguire is no matter what has been said about him, he has never once badmouthed that club like certain other players at Manchester United have, like your Ronaldo's. I think Jesse Lingard, was he leaking stuff as well, apparently? But yeah, I think it was a bit of a step too far for him, but I think the pressure he was put under with the price tag and the captaincy, I think that is what's like made people have too much of an opinion on him.
Yeah.
And speaking of people with too much of opinion, Sam's responses, he'd rather have Captain Birdseye.
Here's me defending him as well.
I mean, and Heather said in the chat, if you look at the Mingsy taking the captaincy off him, did him the world of good. I mean, and I do feel sorry for him. I think he was caught out by the English tax that seems to go on every England transfer, because he's never been that good. I mean, at the time when they signed him, I sort of thought that was 30-40 million too much they signed for, because he's not a bad defender, but he's not like an elite. You would, and I think it was Ollie that made him captain, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
And let's be fair, Ollie was a bad manager, and I think that was a bad decision that he made, because I don't think he needed that. He didn't need that spotlight shone on him.
I think it was basically, we spent this much money on this player, he's going to be captain. And I think, I'm not saying that's all the reasons why, obviously, what he's done and obviously why he struggled, but I think it's a hell of a lot of pressure. I mean, it's a lot of pressure anyway, being captain of a football club, but someone like Manchester United and having that price tag put on you, I just think it's a bad idea, isn't it?
And in fairness, I mean, the style of football that United have attempted to play, I mean, he turns like a tugboat. The poor lad, he's not suited for that at all. And I think he does better at England. He does okay with England, but it's a different style of football, and there's less pressure on him.
He's got John Stones with him. I just think to myself, with Manchester United, and their defence is quite unsettled anyway, especially due to injuries, and we've seen it last season. Obviously, De Gea as well. Like, we questioned De Gea, but obviously with that back line in front of him, he's had Harry Maguire in front of him. Likewise, with De Gea, he's made mistakes as well. I don't think Manchester United have had a solid defence for a while, really. There's always been people coming in and out through injuries, through suspensions. So...
It's problematic. I mean, I think we said on the pod with Sam a little while ago, United have got a lot of work that they need to do in this transfer in the start of the season. I mean, Chris is saying in the chat that he needs a fresh start.
He does.
And he doesn't think he's bad. And I agree. I don't think he's bad. I think the problem United do have, though, as you said, is all their defenders are injury prone.
Yeah.
All of them. Good players. Some of them are good defenders, but they just can't keep it steady Eddie. And I think, and Sam's saying here that the Ten Hag he's evolving the team play. He does deserve a fresh start.
Yeah.
I mean, you said West Ham have been rumoured. I did see something, believe it or not, about Bayern Munich deciding not to make a move because they want to try and save money for Harry Kane. But again, that's a step too far. But I think West Ham. Do you think West Ham is a good that sort of level for him?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he'd look good in an Aston Villa kit, you know.
But is he like an Emery sort of player? You've got to think of it that way.
Exactly. And I think with West Ham as well, as we've seen defenders previously for West Ham, you've seen obviously Craig Dawson, you've seen back in the day James Tompkins and people like that. I think he is that kind of player like them, like your steady defender. And I think he'll flourish in West Ham squad. I think
he'll thrive under David Moyes as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really good place for him to go. Just to, like, rebuild. Yeah. I mean, I know, obviously, as I said, not a poor defender, and obviously with him having the captaincy taken off him, I really do think that a move will probably be better for him. A fresh start where he's not had that pressure on him at that club. I think that'd be a lot better for him. But, I mean, I'm not making his career choices for him.
I think with West Ham as well, at the minute, obviously they've won the cup, but I think at the minute they are trying to rebuild as well. And obviously with his Declan Rice money, and I don't think there'll be as much pressure in the aspect if he went to, I've seen him linked with Tottenham, I've seen him linked with other places as well, Harry Maguire. I think there'd be more pressure on him there, where I think at West Ham, he'd be able to grow as a player and maybe kind of get back on his feet like we saw him at Leicester, because he was never a bad player. And I don't think he is still a bad player. I just think he needs that confidence now to obviously go on. And I think at West Ham, he will do that.
Because he was a different player when he played for England and then goes to play for United. It's like he falls apart. It's like he's legitimately bricking it every time he walks out in Old Trafford, like something's going to happen. I mean, Sam's saying West Ham want a loan deal, but United want a fee because they're worried about his wages. Chris thinks he's going to have to take a wage cut. Here's an interesting one. Chris is saying he should join Chris Smalling at Roma. But he'd be going to see... what did Jose Mourinho... Did he get along with Maguire? I can't remember, to be perfectly honest with you. I can't even recall if he signed him.
Does he get along with anyone?
Probably better make a list of who he does get on with. That's probably going to be shorter.
It'll be easier. But, I mean, a move abroad, I mean, somewhere like Italy with the league's a slower pace. Did you think that would suit him?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think a lot slower paced, because obviously he's not the quickest player in the world, is he? So I think that probably would suit him better. But then does he want to completely move away, completely change his where he's living and everything, just because he's struggling at United when he could go to West Ham or Spurs or somewhere like that?
I'd rather live in Milan, mind, or Rome.
It would be nice.
The only thing is as well, though, I've noticed, apart from Jude Bellingham, when players do go abroad, obviously they do get out of favour for England. It's like Tomori. Would he then...
That's just because you've got a rubbish manager of England, though. I think if you had a proper manager that actually bothers to get up and watch games and understands how football works, I think playing abroad would be a safe bet for English players. Apparently, Chris said Jose was the one that picked Maguire. I think he was. I got a feeling. The more I think about it, I think he was his target, wasn't he? He wanted Maguire. And Chris agreed. He thinks a slow pace league.
Yeah.
And maybe some time at the headlights. But we're saying West Ham should be nice, or just go on holiday, Harry. Go to Italy, have a really nice time. Eat pizza, enjoy all the weather. Chris thinks he'd still get picked for England, in his opinion. That's in fairness, because he's Gareth's friend, isn't he? So
Football friend,
friend forever and ever. But I mean, something I did want to touch on today. Go on. I was going on holiday, just not Greece.
Oh, Sam!
In fairness, I don't think he'd be allowed to enter the country, would he?
No, I don't think so.
I think he'd be nicked at the gates. So that is very wise. He's very wise. Is our Sam. But while we're talking about transfer, I mean, what I thought would be interesting because it hasn't been the most exciting transfer period in this last week. I thought it'd be good to take a look at. I mean, there's a lot of debate at the moment over Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Pro League and the amount of money that they've been spending there, and people are saying that Jamie Carragher has spoken out. Not as vehemently as Rio Ferdinand would have you believe, but that's because he's a buffoon as well. There's a lot of talk about, is that going to destroy the league, and is it really right and fair that the PIF, the investment fund of Saudi Arabia, who basically own Newcastle as well, is it right that they're able then to fund their own league? Because what's happened in Saudi Arabia, they've decided they want to diversify their revenue and their economy, and they are paying clubs, they're giving clubs the money and investing into the clubs in order to buy players, pay their wages in a bid to boost the league. And I thought it'd be interesting just spend a little bit of time talking about that, because they're not the first ones. I'm going to give a little bit of history on this because Keira's very young and she might not know these things. And Charlotte's younger than me as well. But there's a chance.
Thank you. I was waiting for mine.
You are. But I'm not going to say how much younger because that will just age me. But it's not the first league to try and go Super League. Back in the 70s, I wasn't born in the 70s. I'm just going to put that out there. Just to let you know.
Whatever.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's believing you on that, but okay.
I love doing a pod with you guys. I'm just going to go cry myself to sleep after. But in the 70s, America tried to make their big move into football, and they signed players such as Pele, obviously, for New York Cosmos. They had Franz Beckenbauer, Carlos Alberto, Johan Cruyff, whose name I can't say. He's a Brazilian, another Brazilian striker. Gerd Muller, and Jeff Hurst, and England World Cup winning Bobby Moore as well. They all went over to America in a bid to try and bump the league up there. What happened in America? That they just pumped money and hoping to build their league. And guess what happened in America? It collapsed and it folded within about 10 years, actually. The soccer revolution in America lasted. And Heather in the chat, incidentally, saying there is nothing wrong with being born in the 70s. She was born in 73. And what she's missed out on the end there is Up Yours Girls. So I'm just adding that in.
To be fair, I thought Heather was younger.
I just say, you're just bullying me.
Love you.
You two, aren't you? You're so lovely. But the league, actually, the whole league shut down America in 1984 and didn't reopen till the MLS a number of years later. But what they felt that did was create the foundation for the MLS as it is now. The next league that sort of tried that, can you remember the next Super League? Keira, you should be able to remember the next league that spent loads of money in a sudden impact to try and bring lots of players in.
I'm going to say China.
It is China. It is China. 2016. So you would have been like, what, 10 then, if that? You wouldn't have even been.
10.
Were you?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I just took a guess then. But some of the players that I just seen in the chat, I think Lisa's after your date. I think she wants your birthday, Heather. Hopefully not for identity fraud. It's obviously maybe DM that one to Lisa instead of putting it in the YouTube chat. Apparently, Chris said Iniesta went to Japan recently, and in China you had, I think Hulk was the first big name. I don't know if you remember Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. He went over there. Jackson Martinez, Yannick Carrasco, Axel Witsel, Marek Hamsik, Trevino, Oscar. Oscar could have went.
Oscar.
He could have went to Juventus or Atletico Madrid. Went to China and said Ramirez from Chelsea. Remember Ramirez?
Yeah.
Moussa Dembele. One of the first big names was Tevez. Went for £650,000 a week in 2016. So 2016, he was paid an amount of money that Haaland's paid now that we think is a ridiculous amount of money now. That gives you the idea of the sort of money that was being thrown around in China at that stage. And their plan was, again, to try and rejuvenate the league, try and bring it up. and increase the interest in football. But what happened in China was, this is a bit of a history lesson for you all here. But what happened in China then is that the Chinese government thought we're not getting enough players to, so they introduced only 3 overseas players allowed in a game. So where you had Hulk and Tevez and all, only 3 in a game. And then the thing that really started to kill it was any transfer over 5 million, the team also had to pay the equal amount to the Chinese Football Association to be reinvested back into grassroots.
No way.
So if you were buying if you were playing 10 million here, you had to give 10 million straight to the FA for them to invest it. So every deal had basically doubled. And what happened is, though, obviously the teams couldn't afford it. COVID hit, the investment dropped. They didn't generate the youth that they wanted, the homegrown players, and then that league died a death then. So those are the other attempts so far. And it's taken us to the Saudi Super League, which is so far, I'm going to smash through these signings so far that they've done. Karim Benzema. Can anybody guess? I tried to work this out. Anybody guess how much money Karim Benzema is on per week?
Like 400,000, I'm going to go with.
I'm going to go with
Some
700,000.
If my maths are right, he's on 200 million euros a year.
Wow.
I believe it is something to do with something around the lines of 4 million a week.
Wish I had 4 million a week. I don't even have £4 a week.
Well, Chris is saying 800k. I believe it works out. Everything all in is 400 million. So I think it's like 4.1 million a week. I think it works out that, because it's 200 million a year.
That's mad.
Marcelo Brozovic from International, from Inter Milan. Brozovic was a free. Guess how much he's gone? He's going to be paying on. Not that much. Benzema is the pinnacle.
700,000.
So he's on 25 million a season, which works out about 500,000 a week, roughly. Roberto Firmino is on 5 million a year at Liverpool. He's now going to be earning 30 million a year in Saudi Arabia. Jota from Celtic, gone over to Saudi, £10 million a year from whatever he was earning at Celtic. This is all in euros, incidentally, which is probably, if you're saying 400 million a year, that's probably something like 325 million in sterling. That's still a lot of money, though. N'Golo Kante, he's going to be paid 86 million per year. Mendy's gone for 11 million a year from Chelsea. You've got SMS Sergio Milinkovic-Savic. It's going to be on 20 million a year. Ruben Neves is the one I haven't got the figures for Ruben Neves. It's rumoured he's going to be looking something in the region of £500,000 a week for Ruben Neves. And of course, then obviously they've got Steven Gerrard as a manager out there. Jorge Jesus, who managed Benfica.
Have you heard him try and pronounce the club's name? It's my favourite thing in the whole entire world. Him just trying to speak is funny enough. I mean,
it's good, isn't it? Yes, I tell you who else is out there. If you love Steven Gerrard trying to pronounce Saudi Arabian names, Robbie Fowler is also a manager out in Saudi.
Wow.
And Nuno Espirito Santo, and you've got to remember who's already out there, everybody's favourite player, Cristiano Ronaldo, on £75 million a year. 75 million euros a year. And they've also, after Massimo Allegri, Lopetegui, and Marco Silva. I mean, just go through those figures. Shah, you can start us off. What the hell?
Obviously, I'm a lower league fan. From that perspective, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, especially considering like some of the lower league teams and non-league teams who are struggling. But I think that's ridiculous. But from a point of view where you think to yourself, if you're a footballer and you're being offered that amount of money, from a family perspective and from a life perspective, you go for it, don't you? Because that would literally, it's like Neves. It's like he could easily go there for a couple of years, stabilise his family. I think he's come out in an interview and said he's gone. He's basically admitted he's gone there for the money and for the fact that he's always dreamt of that lifestyle. he could have obviously like that's him and his family like sorted for life, and then he could come back to the Premier League or come back to a different league and carry on his career. And I think to myself, from a lower league perspective and being a Rochdale fan, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, especially when you see like clubs like our level going out of business. But then from a personal thinking, obviously from a family perspective, fair play to them. If they're getting offered that money, then you go for it. If that's your family sorted for life, you go for it. So I can see it from both levels.
I mean, and Keira, your team, as we spoke earlier, Everton, is struggling with financial fair play to actually sign players, let alone to pay these sort of wages. Do you think it's fair and that it's right that a government, the richest state, one of the second richest state in the world, is backing all of their teams in this way?
I mean, if you've, as Charlotte said before, if you've got the money, you're being offered that money, you're going to take it. But then you've got to think about the impact it's going to have on players' lives. You've seen people who've been on ridiculous wages in the Premier League and how that's affected some people's lives, and they've gone down the wrong path and it's just ended really badly for them. And then you've got to think then again, if it does establish itself as a really like highly competitive league and then does push for like, you know, being the top 5 leagues in the world, what the heck is the Premier League going to do? Because the money's not going to come into that then. So is the Premier League going to fold? Do you know what I mean? Oh, it's going to struggle. It's definitely going to struggle. Because you've got so many clubs that are obviously owned by Saudi owners, and then there's obviously the Premier League itself, the money that comes into that's to do with the Saudi Arabia as well, isn't it? So, I mean, the future of the Premier League's then going to be in trouble if it does establish itself.
Yeah, you think as well, not that long ago, the high clubs in the Premier League, they were all, and obviously the international leagues like your Real Madrid, your Barcelona, your Italian league, they all wanted to go off into their own Super League as well.
Yeah.
So it's all about money now, and it's so frustrating for the fans because we're attached to these football clubs, but they're just businesses now at the end of the day, and it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating because it does like make you think like in the future about the Premier League. And then obviously from a lower league perspective as well, if something happens to the Premier League, and obviously there were rumours of like your Manchester Cities, your Manchester Uniteds going into the Super League, which obviously ain't happening now, that will then affect your lower leagues because we can't buy players. We have to loan players from these clubs. So it's just, I just don't know. It's just...
It is mad.
It's mad, and I don't know what will happen.
And the thing that sort of unnerved me a little bit, I mean, obviously with Liverpool over the last week, is that Jordan Henderson was the first one rumoured to triple his wages. At the age, I think he's 33. In reality, this is going to be his last season at Liverpool. But he's given this opportunity to triple his wages over in Saudi Arabia. And the Saudi team are asking, well, we don't really want to pay for him. Or we'll give you a couple of million quid. But then at the same time, going for Fabinho, again, offering him crazy money. So in reality, they could, because the two players, I like you said, it's life-changing money. They're within their rights to sort of say, this is crazy money. How can you this can set us for the rest of our lives and for our children. And in fairness, possibly even their children's children, if they're sensible as well. So that the club are in a difficult position. For a Liverpool fan, I mean, that could destabilize our whole midfield in the space of a week. And it's almost something we can do about it. And it is a little bit, it's dismantling the league. I mean, I spoke earlier about the things that sort of brought down China and the American League, the lack of interest really and those financial constraints. Given that that's highly unlikely for Saudi Arabia, what do you think the long-term future is? Do you think that because these aren't just old players, isn't just Tevez at 36, Hulk at 34, Oscar at 30, Axel Witsel at 32. This is Ruben Neves at 26, and this is Sergio Milovic-Savic at 28, Jota at 24. It's not just old players that are coming over. I mean, what do you think that this is going to be sustainable? That because of these younger players, the Saudi League will grow? I mean, Charlotte, what do you think first off?
I think it will definitely impact the Premier League as a whole. Obviously, a lot of people watch the Premier League because you do see the stars and because it is like obviously it is competitive and stuff. So I think it could affect that in one respect. As the Saudi league goes on, I think it will be more. I think it will take off more than obviously we were mentioning the China and obviously America before that, because I think Saudi is now, you see Newcastle, you see the links with Manchester United, obviously there's Manchester City and stuff. They are the people with the money now. But I think to myself, if it is growing more, the Saudi leagues, will these kind of ownerships, will they just go to their own football clubs now instead of coming to the Premier League? And that's the uncertainty, how I feel. But I think that is where the money is now, because you look at Newcastle, you look at obviously this takeover with United, Qataris, Saudis. I think that is where the money is now in football.
Yeah, I mean, and Grimmy in the chat, thank you for dropping in, Grimmy. So he thinks the money is more sustainable, and that's the big difference. And that's for me the nervousness is sustainability of that sort of level of spending. I mean, Keira, I mean, the thing that I find interesting is the PIF essentially going to be owning Newcastle United, potentially Manchester United, all the leagues in Saudi. If the Saudi incentive is to diversify their funds and to grow their own league, very real potential, I think. Do you not think they could use Newcastle and Manchester as a feeder for players into the Saudi league?
Yeah, definitely. I can see it happening, which like Newcastle are going to end up with having so many players on loan out in the Saudi leagues, and Man United, obviously, if that does happen. Again, as they've said in the chat, it is all about sustainability, and I really do think the Saudi leagues, with the amount of money that they have, because they do have a ridiculous amount of money, that I don't see them not sustaining the league. I think that it will go on and build itself and establish itself. I mean, as well, they've obviously got the lower leagues going as well within, obviously, Saudi Arabia, and they've got like people in like obviously like Steven Gerrard as a manager, and that's going to attract like people to the clubs for some random reason. But I have to get a dig in there. You know, I can't talk positively about the panel.
But as you said, they've got lower leagues. I mean, the thing with America is they just had the one league.
Yeah.
They had 18 teams. They tried to expand it to 24. Then they come back down. They didn't have relegation. They didn't have promotion. So they didn't have that sort of level of excitement they had. I mean, China had smaller leagues, so there wasn't as many teams. So it wasn't quite as competitive there. But they've set the pyramid up in the sort of right way. I mean, in the chat, Chris is holding on to not everybody's for money. Messi could have gone, but he didn't. I think what you need to remember with Messi, though, he bankrupted Barcelona because of the contract that he was on. And then he went to PSG and was earning Saudi money at PSG for the last year or so. So I think he's not a fair one to use, really, because he's already been on Saudi level contracts for the last sort of 15 years and earned his dollar. I mean, and Martin saying in the chat as well, he will be earning mega bucks in MLS as well because of all the TV rights. Apple are giving him all the profits from them streaming MLS on their platform. Apparently, did not know that one. But Martin wants a Saudi takeover of Rochdale as well. You can feed players into it. And Grimmy said in the chat, a Saudi Super League incoming, and it is. I mean, I did. What did I do? I think I tried to draw up a little draft table just so I could sort of take a look at some of the players that some of the teams have got, because there's one or two. A lot of these players, although they're relatively spread out, you have got. I can't say the team's name. It's Al Ittihad. The team married by Nuno Santos. He's the one with Benzema, Kante, and Jota. That's all in one. And then Al Hilal, Jorge Jesus' team. That's the one with Kubalali, SMS, Sergi Milinkovic, Savic, and Ruben Neves. So those three have gone there. The rest of them are actually fairly well spread. But I mean, there's a lot of money being spent there, and it is sustainable. Some of the rumors that they've got, so they haven't stopped there. They are still trying to push for players in this window. So the rumors of players you've got coming up so far is Neymar to Al Hilal, Hakim Ziyech from Chelsea, of course, all of Chelsea's players.
Yeah, they've got no one left.
Yeah,
the Chelsea are the feeder club into Saudi. Bernardo Silva is rumored as well to Al Hilal with Neymar. Saul of Atletico Madrid, he's rumored to go. Wilfred Zaha's another player that they are targeting. Paul Pogba, obviously.
Is he still playing?
I don't know. I didn't think he did.
You just
But
never hear about him anymore.
Paul Pogba's another one. Jordan Henderson, of course, and Fabinho we've touched on. And then this is a great one, which it's a shame I know Sam would have thoroughly enjoyed this one. Gianluigi Buffon.
Oh, no way.
Gianluigi Buffon is being offered a contract for 30 million to do a season. 30 million for one season. He's being offered to an unnamed Saudi club at the moment.
I know De Gea was linked as well. I don't know if that's 100% true or whether everyone's linked with him at the minute, aren't they? But do you know what, though? We're all calling Chelsea, but they've got it right because them selling them to these kind of clubs, the financial fair play, they're pretty much sorted now. 8-year contract, selling your players to Saudi. Fair play. Can't call him.
I mean, you've got Koulibaly going out. I mean, he was there for a season. He came in, did one season, and they sold him straight off. I can't remember if he was 30 or 60 million. They bombed him out for. But that's his wages gone. That's his money sorted, and it's crazy. It's crazy times. I mean, I think. Char, you've obviously follow a lot of the leagues. You follow up and down the leagues. Do you think supercharging your league though like this in the way that they have, is that what you need to make a difference? Do you think that's going to be impactful long term if that's what they're after?
I don't know if it will be long term. Obviously, short term, and some of the names that they have pulled off, I think, is mega. Like you've got Benzema, you've got Ronaldo. All these names, so you're going to get people interested automatically, aren't you? I know a lot of kids around my end have got Al Nassr shirts with Ronaldo on the back. Who would ever, honestly, honestly, it's mental. And you'd never see that. So I think from that perspective and stuff, it's getting people watching, it's getting people interested by signing these players. But it's a hard one because I want to say it. I don't know. I really don't know. Like if Mitrovic goes, I'll be interested because I like Mitrovic. So I'll definitely watch it because I do like Mitrovic. But yeah, I think it will get people interested if they keep signing these kind of players because they are well-known players, aren't they? And good players. Like I'm devastated Ruben Neves isn't at Wolves anymore. I thoroughly enjoyed watching him and watching Wolves when he was there.
Yeah, I mean, and Keira, I mean, there's a different, because Keira is a different generation to us. You're happy with me saying that, Shah?
No.
But given that they haven't got a TV deal yet to show their games in Europe, but given where we are in the internet age and all the apps and all the streaming facilities, do you think that's going to stop people with that instant gratification from actually watching the games, or do you think that's going to make any difference?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you've all got your streaming services and your Fire Sticks and your boxes, but let's not.
Obviously, not any of us. None of us.
Because we're all saints. I mean, look at us. Let's not grass anyone up. But I mean, that's not going to stop anybody, is it? Now, like in this modern day and age, there's nothing you can't watch, is there? There's always some way of watching something.
Yeah, so, that's true.
And someone's going to be making money off it. Someone has to be making money off it. So I don't see there not being a way, really, that people aren't going to watch it.
I think it'll get to a point where they will actually televise these. I honestly do think there will be a point in a channel that will televise them. I think they're stupid not to as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it's the big... And I think Grimmy in the chat, he thinks I'm not a Fire Stick seller, mate. No, I'm not. I think it's the liver. I'm not going to besmirch anything there. But the thing, like I said, with the other leagues, of the problems that they had was China wanted to grow their league. China's interest was in growing their league. So that's why they made the changes that they did to try and give younger players a chance and to try and develop them. And America, likewise, they wanted to grow their league. They wanted to develop they did get younger players coming through. The two things with Saudi, they don't care about their own homegrown players. they want to have the income and the revenue. For them, the football is purely the business. It's not the interest level of getting their young players and having Saudi win the World Cup. That's not what they're after. What they're after is having some way to use up all of this money they've got and diversifying, because at some point the world will stop using oil. It is going to go to sort of more renewable sources, and that income stream is going to change, which is why they need to diversify all their revenue. And by doing something like this to try and build up a league, and the nervousness is the Premier League grew because of football as an institution in the UK, and years and years. If you look at the clubs, I think 18 something Liverpool were founded in, Everton a couple of years. They're an older club. Everton are the older club a couple of years before, and so we've got over 100 years of football that has built it up to a point where one TV deal started coming over because the business savvy, they were able to utilize it and be at the forefront of all the commercialization of football. And because of that funding plus the background, we were able to grow it. If you took that funding away, if you remember when footballers in England were catching the bus into games and earning less than normal business people and normal jobs, football was big, but it wasn't big and exotic, and we didn't get all the names. It was always the money that sustained it. So having that history plus the money is what grew it. If Saudi gets bigger and better players and consistently, and they start to pull some of that revenue away from the TV deals, that's what I genuinely think personally. I think that the Saudi league could be a big problem for the long-term position that the Premier League has as the best league in the world. What are your thoughts on that before we conclude? Because I think we've done an hour, which I'm surprised with. But I mean, do any of you disagree, or do you think the Premier League are going to persevere?
No, I definitely agree. I mean, it's like it's being manufactured and like artificially made, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not coming from like the love of the game, and like the Premier League did, as you said, it's not coming from people's love of football. It's coming from like a greed perspective, where people just want the money, they just want the revenue. Whereas obviously in England, with all the leagues, all we care about is our clubs and our players that we've got. And I mean, I don't know if is that gonna shape the way we look at football now with that, having that league. But I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with what you said.
I mean, Charlotte, you said you're seeing kids walking around with Saudi football tops on in Rochdale.
Honestly, it's mental. And it's like Inter Miami and everything now. Like, my little boy, straight away, because Messi signed for them, he wants one of them shirts, and it's because of the player. But I completely agree with both of you when it comes to the Saudi leagues as well. But I feel like football as a whole now is just pure businesses. And I think that's why we do see a lot of clubs like lower, like struggle, because there's no real attachment from an owner now. It's just obviously trying to put money into it, and they've not really got any real attachments. And that's why we do see a lot of lower league clubs fail and obviously go downhill, because we've got us fans who would do anything for our club. We love watching them week in, week out. We would do anything for them. But I think to most owners now, it is purely just business and just money. And the Glazers are a prime example as well. Like, I don't want to go into the old ownership kind of thing, but they're exactly the same. I feel like now, whether it's Premier League, whether it's Saudi League, whether it's the American League, I think it's purely just to make money, and they are businesses now.
No, I agree. I mean, even if you look at Liverpool and FSG, they run it as a business. They run it successfully as a business, but they're not in debt. They manage all their funds correctly. They won't overspend on things because they're running it as a business. I mean, and Grimmy in the chat, he said he heard the G word as his anger is rising, and Heather's got her yellow and green scarves on. I think it is unnerving. I think it's more important than ever to be, if you can support your local club, support your local club. I think more than ever now, that's a really big deal, because they need it. And I think we have
it's like even us now, we are fan owned, but our chairman has come out and said we can't sustain being fan owned. We need outside investment. And it's because you've got all of these other clubs now. You've got businessmen, you've got people putting money into all these clubs, and we financially can't compete. And it's shown it. Obviously, there's a lot of there's a lot of teams like throughout the league that struggled financially during COVID. That obviously couldn't have been helped. It was a pandemic. Like it's never happened before. But I feel like because there's several businessmen and other people putting money into these clubs, obviously they can compete. You've got teams like us who are fan owned. We can't compete with them anymore. And that's shown it. Like we're National League now.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's sad to see. Like, obviously, it's great to see all these big names and great players and all the shirt sales and everything. But for people like me and for obviously fans who support lower league, it's not fair.
No. It is, and I like I said, I mean, it's more important as custodians of football, which all the fans are, that you just remain integral in the support. You support your club, and so I think it's really important as we bring our children up, and Keira, eventually when you have children, whether you bring them, we embed them, and hopefully that love for your local team will continue, and that will sustain the league. So regardless, it was big when it was small, and hopefully it'll remain that way. But I mean, it is unnerving. It's unnerving times. But I thought let's end on something positive. Let's be nice. Let's not talk about let's just not talk about the death of football, because there are nice things that happen, and I don't know if we've spoken about it on the pod because I haven't been on all the podcasts recently. But while we have Keira on, you might be able to give us a little bit of guidance on this one. Forest Green has brought in their first, I think it's the first ever female manager of I think is it Heather Dingley? Is that her name?
Might be. I'm not quite sure.
Hannah Dingley, I believe it is. Interim head coach at Forest Green. Do you know anything of her as a WSL fan?
I don't actually, but I'm very, very happy that obviously there is a female manager. Obviously not over the moon because she's replaced Big Dunk, but I mean, every cloud. But I think obviously it's going to do great things for football. I mean, you've already started to see the backlash online, but it's not as severe as I thought it was going to be, which I think is, again, showing the massive improvement with obviously the Her Game 2 movement as well. That's really, really, obviously, it's done massive, massive things for female fans in football. And you can see that now with, obviously, the sexist abuse isn't coming through as much. Obviously, it's still there. It's probably always still going to be there, let's be honest. But
they'll always be idiots, sadly.
they'll always be an idiot. But I mean, I think it's great that they've got someone, especially with it being lower league as well. It's not like she can work with them and that's build them up, if you know what I mean. And it's not like straight bam light in the spotlight. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, Heather's educated us in the chat that David Horseman's been appointed as a full-time coach.
There he is.
But she's been in the interim. She's taken their next 2 games as well. But I think it's nice to see that step in the right direction. As you said, the vitriol wasn't as aggressive as everyone thought, and it is just the small idiots, the small minority that have an issue with that. So that's nice. So it's nice to see that there is progression. Her Game 2, you mentioned it. They were on Sky Sports the other day talking about the results of their survey, which is fantastic to see. And so there are positives. There's all good moves going. Football isn't just dying. We're still here. We can still enjoy it. And Grimmy just says we just need to agree that any children we bring into this world, just don't let them ever into a Liverpool shirt.
To be real, that should be real. Like if you put a kid in a Liverpool shirt, it's illegal.
And I love doing a pod with you two. You really warm the cockles of my heart. And thank you, Grimmy, for dropping in just to give that extra United side in and just to give me a boot in as well. But yeah, there's lots of good stuff that has been happening. I mean, Shah, before we go, do you want to tell us anything exciting that you've been doing recently, like writing articles for people and being involved in various bits and pieces and where everyone can find you?
Yeah, so I've actually recently spoke to a Tranmere fan. So I've got we play a friendly behind closed doors tomorrow. So Owen approached me and asked if I'd give my thoughts on the game, what's been going wrong at Rochdale. I had to cut it down. I thought, I can't write a story here. This is going to be a long one. All about the Her Game 2 movement and stuff. So if you do want to check it out, the link is on Twitter. We have got a lower league show as well, starting on the Absolute Football podcast, which I am really, really, really excited. We've got a preview show coming up in the next couple of weeks, which should be brilliant. I've got a really good team of people lined up as well from all different EFL clubs, National League clubs. So that should be really interesting. And you can catch up with my stuff, my Her Game 2 stuff. So it's SharXRAFC and all the socials, and it's Rochdale HGT the same as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything.
It is, and it's at 10th of August. The
Yes.
lower league, absolutely lower league, will be kicking off. We will have a preview show in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks time, and then we will be kicking off with Charlotte and her lovely, lovely team that she's assembled. It's like the Avengers. She'll be putting them all together. And Keira, Miss Pitbull, Mrs. Worldwide, viewed all of. If you missed it at the start, we did celebrate Keira on the success of the first ever fully dedicated women's podcast that we've done, which she did with Beth Lindrop, who was fantastic, incidentally.
Yeah.
Sam was very relieved that he didn't have to talk too much because both Keira and Beth knew what they were talking about. It's had just shy of 4,000 views at the moment. It's been viewed in America, in Canada, Sweden, Germany, the Netherlands, just all over the world. So a massive thank you to Keira. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. But Keira, if people want more of you, where can they find you? Where are you?
Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, usually complaining about Everton. It's at Keira.06. It's just a lot of complaining, basically, guys. But yeah, Women's World Cup starts in 3 days, so I'll be ranting about that as well. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for that to start. And if you haven't watched the preview, please go and watch it, because I want to be an internet sensation more than I already am.
And there's a chance that it's not going to be a one and done from Keira. We are hoping to get a mid Women's World Cup show, potentially a conclusion, and then hopefully then in the new season we might be starting something monthly with the wonderful Keira and people. Keira and friends. That's what
what we're going to call it.
International friends now.
Worldwide friends. Forever and ever. And if for reasons not only to yourself that you want a little bit more of debating with myself, I am at FMFO official. FMFO_official on everything: TikTok, Threads, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, and I'm there. You can abuse me and my controversial football views, but the big important thing is, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the YouTube. But you can follow us on Twitter at Absolute Ball Pod, TikTok at Absolute Football Pod, Instagram and Threads. We are threading not just Keira and Charlotte with their eyebrows, but the social media platform. We are threading as well, and they are both at Absolute Football Podcast _ and on Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast. And you can check us, you can find us there everywhere. Please follow us, please subscribe, please like, all of that jazz, and keep your eyes open for all the wonderful content we've got coming up. Thank you very, very much for joining us. TTFN, ta-ta for now.